everybody, Brendan from World of Bikes here, and welcome to another review. So today we've got a KTM 990 Super Duke R on the review, and I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm actually going to give you my opinion on the bike first before I give you any specs. So specs will be more to the end of the video. This is a bike that we did a small build series on, I guess it's about 3 or 4 months ago. It was on YouTube Shorts, so we actually didn't end up finishing the entire build series while documenting it, just because it actually sold off of the YouTube Shorts. Contacted us and subsequently bought the bike from us because of that, so we hadn't finished it all up. We just basically didn't get the wrap done, but all the other modifications we wanted to do have been done. At that time, by the time he got it, we picked it up back from him. His biggest complaint being just the wind resistance of the bike. So he was a bit of a taller rider, and the wind hitting his chest at higher speeds was a bit much. Considering it is a naked bike, these bikes are not known to go, they're not high-speed bikes, they're not, I would say 200 plus kilometer an hour bikes, 120 plus mile an hour bikes, purely just because of the wind resistance. There's no fairings to protect you, there's no screen to protect you either. So going on to my first opinions. Now this motorcycle is not stock, so it is going to be a bit of an adjusted review. It is very far from stock. Internally, I believe it is still completely stock. No funny fuel management systems, ignition management systems, or anything like that. But it has been lightened to a great extent. If I tell you that every single piece of carbon fiber optional extra is on the motorcycle, it is. Everything from the gauge surround, to the headlight surround, to the seat surround, the front sprocket has a carbon fiber cover, the rear tail hugger is carbon fiber, the chain guard is carbon fiber, and I think my absolute favorite part on the bike is the Blackstone Tech or BST carbon fiber wheels. So carbon fiber front, carbon fiber rear as well, and I do think that the bike is a lot lighter to stock, especially with those wheels, and I do think it has made a big difference. The best way I could try and describe riding this bike is it's pretty much like you're trying to fight a bear while riding a bike. Couldn't really think of a great Austrian thing I could compare it to because KTM is from Austria, but that's what it felt like. This thing is an absolute animal. It does take some time getting used to, especially the seating position. It has a very, very super bike-esque seating position that pulls you into the tank with your feet more to the back of you. This bike also does have a set of rear sets, aftermarket rear sets on, I believe they're Panther rear sets, which obviously has contributed to that as well. But it is extremely, extremely aggressive. The throttle is the first thing I want to talk about, and that is just how ridiculously responsive it is. Now, I'm not sure if this is just a drive-by-wire setup, or if it's just like an old school, basic cable gear, not gears, throttles. But this throttle is exceptionally snappy. It is probably the most sensitive throttle I have ever ridden. Going on to that, it's almost like the bike hits a power band when you go into the high RPMs, 7 to 8,000. I'm sure you guys will notice in the review there's a few spots where I get into it nice and hard on first and second, and then I think it's 2 or 3 instances, and in all those instances, as soon as I hit that higher RPM, the rear tire did break loose. With that being said, the bike normally comes out with a 180 rear tire. It currently has a 190 Pirelli Angel GT on, so it's not like it's on cheap tires. These are good quality, high grip tires, and they still do break loose. It's definitely something that stood out a lot for me, comparing it to something like the K1200 that we had on the channel probably about a year ago now, which also had the different throttle settings. This one has one throttle setting, and it's just set to kill all the time. That's unfortunately the way it is. There's no wet modes, there's no electronic assist, there's no wheelie control, there's no traction control. It is just set to kill the entire time. So going on from that, I would really like to talk about the sound of the bike. So this bike has a full stealth exhaust system, so it's got headers, link pipe, as well as the twin tips. All from stealth, nice carbon fiber design on the tips as well, all the slip-ons. decent sounding bike. I do enjoy the sound of the bike. It has that throaty, typical V-twin roar that hits you in the chest. It is loud, but it isn't ridiculously loud. It's not the kind of motorcycle where I feel like I need to wear earplugs while riding it. This has happened in the past, especially with R6s, stuff like that, that have just been decated, that kind of thing without grip and slip-on. They will cause ridiculous amounts of noise. But this bike isn't like that. It's really tolerable, but it still hits you in the chest that people can hear coming from a mile away, which obviously is something I like. So speaking on the torque, this is a very, very high torque bike. So according to the specs, it's 101.7 Newton meters or 75 foot-pounds at 8,000 RPM. Not ridiculous, but it is high. It is definitely something you feel while riding a bike, and I think that contributed a lot to why the bike felt so snappy, why it was so responsive. I'm sure you guys will see clips. If I just jab the throttle quickly or something like that, it's immediate, and you can see the torque grow through my arms, how it basically just pulls me back. So, in a nutshell, I think that this is an absolute fighter of a bike. This is the kind of bike that you're going to ride it for the first time, and you're going to get off it, and you're going to realize that you might have gotten yourself into a little more than you were hoping for. It is the kind of bike that you will be scared of, especially after the first time riding it. I've been riding now for roughly, I believe it's about 8 years, and I haven't rode anything this aggressive. And I've ridden pretty much everything on the market from high versions to the 125 to sports. It is exceptionally aggressive. It is violent. It's pretty much the easiest way I can describe it, but still extremely enjoyable. Once you start to get the feel of the bike, once you start to get used to how it turns, how the throttle comes in, you'll see, I believe in the video that you guys are watching, we did 2 takes on this video. We have a really nice twisty bit that I like going through. And unfortunately, there was a car in front of me, so I couldn't really ride nice and spirited through there. I'll probably try and add it right at the end of the video, so you guys can have a look at what I mean. On the first take, we managed to get a really nice one there. Nothing ridiculous, but just getting used to how the bike turns, how the bike leans, how the throttle starts going, and how you get used to it. It's definitely a massive improvement. I think just riding the bike yesterday and riding it today, I've already noticed a big difference in my riding style with riding the bike and how I rode it. So moving on from there, I think it's a tremendous bike. I think that if you are a beginner or intermediate rider, I would think twice about buying this motorcycle. If you're a beginner rider, don't even think about it. But if you're an intermediate rider that does have a lot of hours under your seat, and you have ridden a few bikes, aggressive bikes like this, or similarly aggressive bikes, it is something that you should consider. But if you're an advanced rider, I think you're going to feel right at home. These bikes they've definitely blown me away. They don't have a lot of top end, but that 0 to 60 mile an hour, that 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is rather rapid. It is a lot of these bikes are frequently described as hooligan bikes, and I don't really understand why. I mean, comparing this to the CB1000R and stuff like that, the CB1000R I do believe makes a little bit more power, but it is not even close to as aggressive. This bike is just there to put you in your place as fast as it can, and hopefully leave this in your face. So let's quickly have a rundown of the specs. So it's a 999.8cc engine, basically 1,000 with the 990. Liquid cooling with an 11.5 to 1 compression ratio. Interesting fact, it has a drive stump lubrication system with 2 rotor pumps, something not super common on motorcycles, but we do see them. Electronic fuel injection as well as electronic ignition, which is contactless controlled, and like I said, fully electronic ignition system with a digital ignition timing adjustment. Max power, you're looking at about 130 horsepower, and max torque, as previously stated, 101.7 Newton meters. Weight multi-disc clutch, 6-speed. Frame is chromium molybdenum trailers frame, powder coated subframe, and a handlebar, tapered handlebar as well. I do really like the look of single 240mm disc and 2-piston caliper in the rear. All of these are Brembo brakes. Big fan of Brembo brakes, especially if you're coming from a motorsports background. I do like them on this bike. They're definitely very comfortable. Front tire standard is 120 by 70 by 17. Rear tire is a 180 by 55 by 17. But on this bike we do have the 190 by 55 by 17 as previously stated. And then the last little bit that we're going to be heading into, 185 kilogram dry weight at a top speed of 236.3 kilometers an hour, which is understandable considering the wind resistance that you will experience. Overall, I think it's a very well geared bike. It is great for basic commuting if you're not going to do long roads, in terms of you're not going to do any touring or anything like that. I think you're going to have a hell of a time. If you're doing basic commuting, basic highway riding, I think this is a great bike. If you want to go on an adventure every time you drive to work or drive to your mate's house or whatever it may be, this is going to be the bike for you. It is not going to be the bike for you if you want to try and do 600 kilometers in a day. Unfortunately not. But overall, I'm very impressed by this motorcycle. I always feel that I'm biased to these high power, higher aggressive bikes. But I do think that this bike does have its faults. Obviously, as the previous owner stated, just the wind resistance for him was a bit too much because he enjoys more touring riding. But overall, an absolute monster and definitely a bike that I'll be sad seeing go. But that's it for now. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, please subscribe. We're getting really close to 400 subscribers right now.